the employee does bear the investment risk. Now, how do you invest this money? Well, the average employer has 10 funds. The average employer offers 10 funds for you to invest in. So when I went around to talk to the employees about this, they would always say to me, Tom, which fund should I be in? You know, my boss was mortified. He would never answer this question, right? I used to actually give them an answer of what I thought were the good funds. But you don't have to worry about that today because there's something called a target retirement fund. Have you ever heard of those? The target retirement fund is offered by the major mutual fund families. They run most of the 401ks. So here you're talking about either Vanguard, who I'm very fond of, Fidelity,
Mass Mutual,
T. Rowe Price, right? I like these three because they offer no load funds, that is fairly low expense funds. Vanguard is the lowest expense of all mutual funds. So they offer something called a target retirement fund. Remember, your employer enrolls you in the fund automatically, enrolls you in the 401k plan, right? Where does your money go? Well, under a target retirement fund, right, like 95% is going into stock. Say you're 22 years old, and 5% goes into bonds. When you hit 35, 40 years of age, what they do is they drop it. 80% stock, 20% bonds. Now you hit 50, what do they do? 50% stock, 50% bonds. And then as you get towards retirement, 65, this shifts. 20% stock, 80% bonds. That way, if the market drops right before you're heading out the door, you're not clocked, right? Your money is still there. So the target retirement funds, the mutual fund company invests the money and shifts it from equities onto bonds over your lifetime. Mark?
So say there was like a recession again, is there a certain amount of guarantee or are you guaranteed the whole money?
You're guaranteed whatever in the account, but no, there's no dollar guarantee if there's a recession. I always tell employees, especially young ones, be happy when there's a recession because the price of stocks goes down and you're a buyer. You're a buyer and you're buying them cheaper, okay? So that's actually a good thing. And they're using index funds. Do you know who Warren Buffett is?
Yeah.
Right? You've heard of him, right? Index funds just track the S&P 500, different indexes, right? He bet them that the return of the S&P 500 index fund would do better. I'm talking about the hedge fund managers. The hedge fund managers all think they're like magicians, right? They all think they're like Merlin. We have secret ways of coming up with investments. That's bullshit, okay? So he bet them that the S&P 500 would beat them. He bet 5 of them, 5 different hedge fund managers, that the S&P 500 index, which is just an average of the top 500 companies in the United States, that the return on that index would beat each one of them. He bet each one of them $1 million, right? Guess what? Beat each one of them by 2 points. This is over a 10-year period. So, we're happy for Warren. He picks up another $5 million, but it shows you, though, that really, you don't have to worry about magic. This will work, okay? Yes, Elizabeth?
You were talking about buying in when the stock price, like when you're in a recession. I have like a Roth IRA account.
Good.
So if we do hit a recession, does it make sense to put put more money into it then?
Sure it does, yeah.
Okay. So it would,
Sure it does, yeah.
It applies with that too.
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't know. I guess that makes sense now that I'm saying it out loud.
Yeah, it
but-
does, yeah.
All right, thank you.
I've had my wins and losses. After the 1987 crash, I said to my wife, you know what, now we should buy some stock. She said, go ahead. So we didn't have a lot of money in those days, but we took the money we had and we put it in stock. We made a lot of money. right? Then I had another idea. I said, you know what? I think Apple's going to do well, right? I said, but I'm going to do this the way the experts say to do it. I'm going to talk to 5 people I know who are in the computer business and get their advice. All 87, 88. It's not that they talked me out of it, but they talked me out of it. What they said was,
Oh.
hey, IBM has woken up and they're going to crush Apple like a bug, right? So I said, I better not do it, you know. So we didn't buy it. We didn't buy the stock, right? Think my wife ever forgot that?
No.
She never did.
But they did crush him, like, in the beginning.
Well,
The stock was down up until like 96 or so.
Yeah, but with the way he thinks and how he's explaining it, he would have stayed.
I would have stayed in. They hadn't been crushed like I had in this marriage, let me tell you. You know, you don't want to make a mistake like that again. Just buy the stock, okay? All right.
He's like,
So the employee, if the employee wants to, can choose among these funds. I've had friends who do that. I've done it myself. Or you can pick the target retirement fund, which is invested according to your age, okay? So like right now, if you were getting in, you would pick like, let's see, it's 2017. Say you were just like 22. You're gonna roughly retire in 40 years, say. So you'd be talking about target retirement 2057. In other words, the year is the year you're looking to retire, okay? You can pick 2040 if you think I'm gonna do really well, I don't need to worry. Pick an earlier retirement age. But that's sort of how the target retirements work, and they're the default investment for most 401k plans today. Okay? The employer usually makes a match
okay, good.
in dollars that are invested the way you're invested. So if you're in the target fund, their money's going into the target fund. There are some employers who will invest in company stock. They make their investment in company stock. This can be a good thing if it's Apple, right? It can be a bad thing if it's Enron, right? Right? Because Enron was a big company, Houston Power and Light. It's like our own Pico. Everybody thought they were rock solid, right? They used to teach courses. Their CFO and their chief legal officer used to teach courses on ethics. You believe that? To me, that's astonishing. You know, we want people who do the right thing. Asterisk, we don't, but we want people who do. So, they made their match in Enron stock, and they let their employees make their contribution, if they wanted to, in Enron stock. Some of them did. That's what you call being unwise. You want to be diversified. Like if you're in this index fund, right? You're diversified, right? If one company in the index hits like Apple did, goes through the roof, you're going to benefit. If one goes bankrupt, you're going to be okay. Okay? So it's going to be a blip on your return. But if all your money's in Enron stock and Enron goes bankrupt, what happens? Down you go. You're hurt. So I always tell people, listen, if you get the choice, take the match in whatever way you're investing it. Don't take it in company stock. I had this happen to me. I was working for PSFS, we were doing great, and then PSFS went under. And that match was, not worth anything.
Because of the variability in the stock and also the fact that there's an increased risk, like you can lose your job and your retirement at the same time, is there a way that companies compensate employees for that? So, for instance, do they give them more value in stock than what they would receive in benefit?
Well, that's an interesting question, but remember, the money that goes into this account, right, it leaves the company. So the bankruptcy risk for the company isn't your retirement risk. This is part of the reason we have the ERISA Act. The company is required, when you put money into a 401k plan, the company is required to get that money to the mutual fund company within 5 days. They only have 5 days to get that money over there. It doesn't sit in their treasury, because this is what the government's worried about. Your company goes bankrupt, and boom, your retirement plan's gone. They don't want that. So the company is required to take all the contributions, take their match, send it out to the mutual fund company within 5 days. So that minimizes that risk, okay? So that's a good thing. Now, with a 401k plan, you can borrow against your balance. I always tell people not to do it, but you can. You can borrow up to, I think it's up to 50% of the vested balance. But then, when you borrow against it, the money's not growing because you've basically taken it out, and then you pay yourself back, okay? And you can also take an early withdrawal if you hit hard times, okay? You're gonna lose your house or something like that. You can take a hardship withdrawal. You can't do that with pensions, with defined benefit pensions, okay? So I think that pretty much covers 401k plans, which we're contrasting with defined benefit plans. But 401k plans are not the only kind of defined contribution plan. There's one more that I want to talk about tonight, and then we will finish up next week, okay? So the last one I want to talk about tonight is a profit sharing